I pulled all-nighters for 3 straight years, just to beat this space warfare game. In the game, I was the absolute ruler of the Galaxy Empire. If anyone pissed me off, one wave of my hand would instantly launch tens of millions of starships, effortlessly wiping out entire civilizations. But with final exams right around the corner, and wanting to make sure I didn't fail, I uninstalled the game and started cramming. But right before I hit delete just to flex a little, I left a parting message, my citizens. Our Galaxy Empire is now on the right track. From this day forth, I shall officially step down. But if the Galaxy Empire ever faces a major crisis, you can find me on the blue planet Earth in the solar system. Of course, that was all just a game. Now with all this free time on my hands, I could finally focus and study for real. Or so I thought. Just as I was in my dorm eating dinner and staring at exam questions, my roommate suddenly screamed, "Holy crap, dude, look at the news. There's an alien armada parked right outside Earth." Hearing that, I scrambled to open the news. And they're right on the front page. Every single headline was saying the exact same thing. Alien warships have arrived at Earth, complete with live coordinates and maps. But what really blew my mind was that beneath all those headlines, they all featured the exact same photo. In the blurry shot, parked right next to the moon was a colossal interstellar fleet. But as I stared at the shape of those ships, they looked incredibly hauntingly familiar. I rushed out onto the dorm balcony to look up and saw deep crimson lightning crackling across the sky. Down on the campus, chaos was breaking out. Students were running around in a panic. Some were screaming with excitement, as if they'd been waiting for this day their whole lives, feeling like they were witnessing history in the making. Others were completely terrified, convinced that the aliens were gonna wipe us out, and desperately looking for a place to hide. Inside the school campus, it was absolute chaos, but the outside world was where the real madness was unfolding. Citizens in the city. Almost everyone swarmed the supermarkets and grocery stores, frantically grabbing any food they could find. Lightning flashed and thunder roared across the sky. The entire city was plunged into darkness in just 10 to 15 minutes, plunging the entire planet into absolute panic like never before. As I kept scrolling through the news, my phone screen suddenly started glitching out. A line of text appeared on the screen written in Chinese. "Sovereign Fengshen, are you there?" Without exception, the screens of every electronic device in the world displayed this exact message. Once again, the entire globe was sent into shock. This kind of technology was definitely beyond human capabilities. It had to be sent by those alien warships. What on earth was this power? What was their true purpose? When I saw those words, I froze completely. My mind went totally blank like a bomb had just gone off. My hands shook uncontrollably as I clutched my phone. Fengshen, that name, was my exact ID in that space warfare game. That was when it hit me, where my sudden sense of familiarity with those warships had actually come from. Weren't they from that game I used to play? Star River. And my title in that game was Sovereign. I immediately rushed over to my computer to search for the game's installation files, but it was obvious I had uninstalled it completely. Even when I searched all over the internet, I couldn't find a single trace of any information about the game. Meanwhile, world leaders were hastily gathering together, desperately discussing how to handle the alien warships. Right now, Earth's most powerful weapons were still nuclear warheads, but up against a massive alien fleet, who knows if we can even pose a real threat to them? In their eyes, we're probably just a toy that can make a tiny bang. And so, every country mobilized their most cutting-edge technology, sending messages of goodwill to the alien warships. But the aliens completely ignored them. And it was this silent, dismissive attitude that gave everyone a terrible feeling of impending doom. If this alien fleet ever turned on Earth with any hostile intentions, our world wouldn't even be able to put up any real defense. Meanwhile, the major powers with spacefaring capabilities quickly initiated their own space programs, each sending an astronaut to represent them. They headed toward the moon in a desperate attempt to communicate with the fleet. But I knew the truth. There is no such thing as peace in the vastness of space. When there's a massive gap in technology between two sides, the weaker one is always destined to be conquered. Especially for a low-level civilization like Earth, we don't even have the right to speak to the Star River fleet. Once the fleet finishes collecting all of Earth's data, it will be the end of our world. As the Emperor of the Star River Empire, I know this all too well, because the ruthless nature of the Star River Empire was built entirely by my own hands. Right now, every screen across the globe is broadcasting the live rocket launch to the moon. All I can do now is pray that this launch won't provoke the Star River fleet, because even if it's just a tiny frigate from the Star River fleet, wiping out Earth would be child's play for them. As the rocket drew closer and closer to the alien warships, one of the astronauts caught a faint glimpse of the stern of the warship, but once he got a clearer look, he was completely paralyzed with shock. On the tail of that alien warship was a painted line of text, And it wasn't written in some alien script. It was written in Earth's own language. After discovering this serial number, the astronaut immediately reported it to Mission Control. Among them, a legendary scientist hypothesized that this alien fleet might not actually be from outer space, but was actually built right here on Earth. Right then in the control room, as everyone stared at the screen watching that alien warship's dead husk, the main screen suddenly flickered, and a line of text in Chinese characters popped up. Humans of Earth, stop your approach immediately. Otherwise, your planet will be completely erased. This was a clear, unmistakable warning to Earth. Seeing this, the Joint Command Center immediately ordered the astronauts to retreat. Just as everyone was starting to panic, a senior scientist at the command center suddenly made a crucial realization. If their message is displaying on our screens, that means they have already hacked into Earth's network. Could we try to establish contact with this alien fleet? The professor then put on his headset and tentatively spoke into the screen. Unknown visitors from beyond. Hello, what is the purpose of your visit? If you need Earth's assistance, please let me know. We are willing to fully cooperate. Exactly 5 seconds after the message was sent, a blinding light suddenly burst across the sky worldwide, instantly forming a massive 3-kilometer-long, 1-kilometer-wide holographic projection. Within the projection, a three-dimensional humanoid figure emerged. It was completely transparent, retaining only a human silhouette, but flowing like liquid, a being made entirely of water. The water figure opened its mouth and spoke its very first words, "I am from the Milky Way," specifically the Goethe system. Designation Dragon Squadron of the Chaos Fleet under the Galactic Empire. Unit 03. His voice was incredibly deep and resonant, but carried a faint detectable metallic edge, giving off the feeling of a machine simulating human speech. Everyone stared at the waterman in utter shock, but at least they had established contact with the alien fleet. The academician continued asking, "Excuse me, why have you come to Blue Star? What is your purpose?" "Our sovereign has retreated to Blue Star in the solar system. We must find him." "Is your sovereign a native of Blue Star or one of your own?" "The sovereign is the supreme leader of our Xinghe Empire. We have crossed galaxies, traversed time and space, and passed countless stars just to find Blue Star." Hearing this, everyone was completely shocked. Crossing galaxies, traversing time and space? Just what level of civilization would it take to achieve something like this? If a being like that chose to attack Blue Star, we wouldn't stand a single chance. Once the old professor snapped out of it, he quickly followed up, "How do you know? Your sovereign is here on Blue Star." "Our sovereign left a message when he departed the Empire. When the Empire faces a major crisis, you can find me on Blue Star in the solar system. So if I understand correctly, your sovereign should already know about your arrival. Why hasn't he shown himself? No living being can presume to understand the sovereign's mind. Please give us some time. We will mobilize the entire planet to search for your sovereign, and we will let you know the moment we find him." The old professor continued, "Could you provide us with a photo of the sovereign to make the search easier?" People all over the world whispered among themselves while staring tensely at the screen, eagerly waiting for the alien to produce a drawing. Under the intense gaze of the entire world, 1 minute later, the alien replied coldly with just 2 words, "Very well." The entire world was completely shell-shocked. The alien had actually agreed to show humanity a photo of their sovereign. This marks a massive turning point in communication between humanity and the aliens, officially entering a state of cooperation. The aliens' stance also proves that they didn't come with any malicious intent. Down in the ground command center, the global leaders who had been tense to their absolute limits finally let out a collective sigh of relief at this very moment. Now that they have a photo of the Fengshan sovereign, everything is about to get much easier. They won't even have to wait until tomorrow. This person will be found today and handed over to the aliens. With that, the crisis facing Earth will be resolved once and for all. There is even a strong possibility that they will receive the aliens' gratitude. Just a tiny fraction of their advanced technology would cause human civilization to take a massive leap forward. Thinking of this, billions of people across the entire planet are now filled with anticipation, waiting for the aliens to display the sovereign's photo. But inside room 407 at Linhai University, my heart instantly clenched with anxiety. The waterman has a problem, and it is a massive one. From his very first actions and decisions, things have been highly unusual. For an empire like theirs, Earth's low-level human civilization is something they could easily wipe out in an instant. Yet they chose to conduct a search and reconnaissance mission instead. And when it comes to Earth, their investigation has actually dragged on for this long. It seems they still haven't completely finished even now. All of these actions prove that they are no longer the same Star River Empire that acted with such efficiency back when I played the game. Most importantly, the waterman actually stepped forward to communicate with humanity, and every single one of his actions is a direct violation of the rules I established. This is an exercise of free will that lies completely outside of my control. And on top of that, he actually just said he was going to release my photo. This has made my heart completely sink. I was completely consumed by a wave of unprecedented panic. I had no idea if that alien, made entirely of water, actually had a photo of me. More importantly, what on earth did they want? If they came with hostile intentions, I would have absolutely no way to fight back. To curry favor with the aliens, humanity would definitely hunt me down and hand me over. Besides, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. Why would the dragon fleet that appeared over Earth violate the rules I established? When I left the game, it was highly likely that the only reason they didn't just obliterate Earth was to get their hands on the supreme authority I held in that world. Suddenly, the frozen projection in the sky began to move. The water figure on the screen reached out with both hands, actually holding up a photograph. Instantly, everyone in the world held their breath, their hearts in their throats. The next second, the photo was instantly magnified 100 times. But the picture only showed someone from behind. You couldn't see their face at all. Seeing this, I let out a massive sigh of relief. When the countless citizens saw this photo, they were all completely stunned. After waiting all this time, they couldn't even see a face. Our sovereign lord is the most exalted being in the galaxy. Incredibly mysterious and completely beyond comprehension. This photograph is the only image of the sovereign the Empire possesses, and it was personally drawn by the sovereign himself. Honestly, seeing that drawing made me want to laugh, because this image was actually just something I did when I was bored, posing for a cool photo to use as my gaming profile picture. Like hell, it's beyond comprehension. It was literally just a random photo I messed around with, but just as I was laughing to myself, something suddenly hit me. The grin on my face instantly turned into a look of absolute dread. Otter has definitely gone rogue. He's no longer that obedient machine, who only follows rules and commands. My subjects from the Galactic Empire still haven't shown up, and that's really putting me on edge. Looking back to when I first built the fleet, with the Chaos Fleet as the flagship armada, its security protocols were absolutely ironclad. It was supposed to be an impenetrable shield. Later on, I began developing sentient artificial intelligences. Inside the game, I personally designed 2 core sentient AIs, Nua and Pangu. Using their designs as a blueprint, I created 5 derivative sentient lives: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Each was put in charge of their own subfleet, carrying out missions across the cosmos. That was the only way I could set the game to run on autoplay. But of all things, the control hub of the Dragon Fleet is run by none other than Water. Maybe because he was just a derivative system, he managed to break free from the shackles of my programming and developed actual self-awareness. The current situation is looking incredibly bad for me. No matter what Water is trying to achieve, I absolutely cannot let myself be exposed. But just sitting here waiting to die isn't an option either. Once Water finishes his complete scan of the blue star, I'll have absolutely nowhere left to hide. It's only a matter of time before I'm exposed. To protect myself, I have to find a way to return in fast. If I can make it back, my absolute first priority will be to contact my subjects, because they are absolutely loyal to me. Once that's done, I'll reclaim supreme command over the fleet, and completely format Water before he even knows what hit him. Back then, I was worried that leaving the game on autoplay for too long might cause a massive system glitch, so I specially set up a secondary override key. It can completely restore the fleet. If any errors popped up, it would auto-repair them on the spot. It's basically a rollback function. But now the game has already manifested into the real world. The in-game screen where I could enter the password has completely disappeared. Now where else is there even a place to enter the password? I took a deep breath, looking up at the sky filled with dark red lightning, my heart feeling incredibly heavy. Not long ago, Shui gave humanity 3 days to help track down the Sovereign's whereabouts. The Global Joint Command Center, immediately after their conversation with Shui ended, drew up a brand new plan. The operation to find the Sovereign was launched globally, and every district was mobilized in an instant. Agents, tech experts, and scientific researchers all threw themselves into the search. But I never expected the investigation team to arrive so quickly, already making their way to Linhai University. After all, this top-tier university is packed with elite professors and PhDs. These elites naturally became the prime suspects. Dozens of investigation team vehicles were parked around the plaza. Staff members holding clipboards questioned those being investigated in detail, while quickly jotting down information. The suffocating tension in the air was palpable. Standing outside the cordon, I kept a close eye on the screening process inside, quietly planning my next move in case they started checking the students, so I could be prepared in advance. Fortunately, the campus investigation wrapped up quickly, confirming that the person they were looking for wasn't here. The investigators packed up their gear and immediately rushed to the next screening location. Back in my dorm, I collapsed onto my bed, and memories began to flood back, recalling every single detail of playing that game. Since everything started with that game, the key to solving this crisis might just be hidden inside it. Scenes began to flash before my eyes. When I first started the game, I was piloting a small starter spaceship, killing Zergs on low-level planets to earn military merits. Later, I upgraded to much more advanced starships and followed the others into real battles. It wasn't until I successfully built my own fleet that my journey across the cosmos truly began. Back then, our fleet was still pretty small. We only had 11 massive battleships, a few dozen crew members, and over 1,000 large spaceships. But when the Galactic War broke out, the scale of the battle was completely different. Hundreds of fleets and millions of warships clashed in a chaotic, massive free-for-all. To avoid accidentally firing on our own guys, I marked our ships with a very specific, unique symbol. One of those was the symbol for the character human. I still remember it crystal clear to this day. As the fleet grew larger over time, I created my first sentient AI lifeforms. They were able to accurately distinguish friend from foe, allowing the fleet to run completely on autopilot. So I went ahead and deleted that human symbol. Not even Nua or Pangu, who came later, knew anything about this, and certainly not the 5 elemental Ayas of Goldwood, Water, Fire, and Earth who were created from them. Only back then did those few dozen founding veterans in the fleet know about it. Realizing this, my eyes suddenly lit up with hope. Right now, Water has clearly gone rogue, but the Dragon Fleet and the crew members inside should still be loyal. Besides, in each of the 5 branch fleets, there are still veteran subjects from my early days. Maybe I can use this human symbol to get back in touch with them and find a way out of this mess. Without a moment's hesitation, I jumped out of bed. With the technological level of the Dragon Fleet, finding me is only a matter of time. Sitting around doing nothing is just slow suicide. The secret code I hold in my hand, along with that human symbol and the level 2 key that grants absolute authority, are still our only hope to break this deadlock. As long as that symbol can open a channel to contact my loyal subjects, this key will eventually come in handy. Slipping on my shoes, I practically burst out of the dorm, sprinting like crazy toward the stadium rooftop. The freezing wind rushed down my collar, and my ears were filled with nothing but my own frantic breathing. In my head, I kept replaying the steps to connect with the dormant fleet, but I had absolutely no idea that inside the Republic of H's Parliament Hall, the atmosphere was as heavy as lead. A hand slammed heavily onto the conference table. The writing on that starship is clearly the ancient script of our great H nation. This alien fleet must belong to our ancestors. If we seize this opportunity, we will become the absolute strongest nation on Earth. Instantly, over 20 high-ranking officials erupted in excitement. Though other nations quickly issued protests sparking a massive global backlash, the H nation completely ignored them. Just 30 minutes later, on the launch pad of their rocket base, the spaceship carrying the astronauts slowly ascended. 5 minutes later, on military radar screens across the globe, that blinding speck of light broke through the atmosphere. Another 30 minutes passed, and the spaceship reached its designated orbit, slowly closing in on the alien fleet. When the distance shrank to just 50 kilometers, a cold mechanical voice suddenly rang out. Across every single communication channel, humans are forbidden to approach. In the live broadcast, the hearts of the global audience instantly skipped a beat. Yet the commander of the H Nation spaceship completely ignored the warning, ordering his crew to send back a signal. Tell them we are the descendants of the sovereign, and we have come to reunite with our ancestors. In the very next second, the alien starship, which had been completely still in space, suddenly shifted. A massive hatch slid open, and a cannon barrel dozens of meters long slowly extended. A blinding light began to condense at the tip of the barrel. Before anyone could even react, the sphere of light shot out like a meteor, instantly swallowing the H Nation spaceship. Once the beam of light dissipates, the entire area is left completely empty. The live broadcast is cut to nothing but static. Where's the spaceship? What was that light? Global audiences plunge into utter panic. Meanwhile, on the World Federation's private channel, the Coalition spaceship that was sent out first had clearly recorded the entire event. A beam of light dozens of meters wide swept through, and H Nation's spaceship didn't even leave any ash behind. It just completely vanished into the depths of space. Inside the Global Command Center, the furious roars of world leaders are deafening. Once this matter is settled, we must make sure this clown is wiped off the face of the Earth. Sector A's arrogant behavior was like lighting a fuse. No one knows if this sudden attack will mark the beginning of an alien fleet's invasion of Earth. The school sports center's rooftop is completely deserted. Clutching a large box of chalk, I stand right in the middle. Above me, dark clouds are churning, and dark red lightning bursts through the cloud cover. The deafening rumbles shake both heaven and earth. I had already picked out the perfect spot to draw the symbol, so I immediately pull out a piece of chalk, crouch down and quickly sketch that unique human character. Returning to the dorm that night, I couldn't sleep a wink. The symbol on the rooftop just lay there all alone, but there was absolutely no movement from the fleet. Maybe Chen-Ming couldn't even see it. The moment I wake up in the morning, I decide to try a different approach. I'll post the symbol pattern across multiple online platforms. By spreading it far and wide, it should increase the chances of Chen-Ming spotting it. Just as I turn on my computer, my roommate suddenly speaks up. Man, that investigation team is moving fast. They just finished investigating the teachers yesterday, and today they're already coming for the students. His words hit my heart like a sudden bolt of lightning. Am I exposed before I can even think? My roommate nudged me and whispered, "Hey, I heard orders came down from the top. They're going to screen everyone in the entire city. Men, women, young, old, not a single soul gets a pass." My brow instantly furrowed in worry. Just yesterday, the investigation team was still analyzing clues to narrow down the search area. But today, they're suddenly screening the entire population. How is it possible to screen tens of millions of people in 3 days? There's definitely something wrong with this. Suddenly, the symbol on the rooftop flashed across my mind. Could they have already decoded its meaning? And even locked onto my location? But if I hide and don't show up now, it'll only make me look more suspicious. I have no choice but to bite the bullet and face the screening. My roommate patted me on the shoulder. Let's go, let's go. The advisor has been rushing us in the group chat for ages. I pushed down the anxiety in my chest and followed the crowd toward the sports field. The sports field was already packed with students. Black government vehicles were lined up along the edge of the field. There were almost twice as many as yesterday. Investigators holding lists scanned back and forth across the crowd of students. Their expressions were dead serious. As I was keeping a low profile and observing, I suddenly caught sight of someone walking toward me. He glanced at me, and his eyes instantly locked on. His pace picked up rapidly, and he headed straight for me. 3 hours ago, the World Coalition called an emergency summit. The reason was that the investigations across all districts had made zero progress. Mobilizing massive forces to screen tens of millions of people in just 1 day, yet they hadn't found a single trace of the supreme leader. Someone proposed sending another vessel closer to the warship to communicate with the alien fleet once more and try to gather more information. Otherwise, they stood no chance of completing the task. The heads of each nation had no other choice. They could only agree. Just over 10 minutes later, the Coalition starship reached its designated position and sent a transmission request to the fleet. Soon, Choi's projection appeared in the air, gradually taking shape. The Sovereign's identity is highly prestigious. Even my knowledge of him is limited. Just as disappointment washed over the ground command center, inside the control room of the alien fleet, Shui suddenly initiated a self-diagnostic run. Lines of source code rolled rapidly past his eyes. Even the core code given to him by Pengu and Nua was being cracked by the mothership. Finally, he caught a tiny sliver of critical information. In the Sovereign's name, there should be the character Feng. Shay's voice rang out once again. You only have 2 days left. This news instantly energized everyone. The search scope had been narrowed down significantly. The chief of the Eastern District immediately ordered, under the guise of a citywide sweep, to focus on checking citizens with the character Feng in their names. At that moment, the investigator walked right up to me. He was a cold, stern-faced soldier, clutching a folder in his hand, staring straight at me. Just as I was about to speak, he suddenly took a step forward, a subtle knowing smile playing on his lips, and asked clearly, "You're the Fengshan Sovereign, aren't you?" The surrounding students instantly locked their eyes on me. Cold sweat broke out all over my back. My mind raced, was Chen-Ming here to cover for me? Or was this a trap set by Shui to test me? But then I thought, if I were truly exposed, Joey wouldn't have sent just one investigator. So I immediately put on an excited face, waved my hands and yelled, "Yes, yes, yes! I'm the Sovereign." The investigator frowned and studied me for a few seconds, then shook his head and turned to leave. Clearly he wrote me off as some crazy guy looking for attention. I let out a sigh of relief, finished my registration with the rest of the crowd, and headed back to my dorm. The moment I stepped inside, my phone suddenly buzzed. A notification popped up on the screen. You have one unread message. Supreme clearance. My pupils instantly shrank. I quickly covered my phone screen and darted my eyes around the dorm room. No one was paying attention to me. I tapped on the message. A line of text popped up. Sovereign, please be careful. Shay has betrayed us. My heart instantly began pounding like crazy. They know my identity. Have they tracked my phone before I could even think? A second message popped up. Feng, this is Nua. I'm using encrypted channels to bypass Shui and contact you. I'm leading a fleet to your location right now. But we still need some time to open a wormhole. The only ones who would know the name Feng are Pangu and Nua. My fingertips trembled with excitement. I tapped the pitch-black icon of the Supreme Clearance app and a dark chat interface popped up. I immediately messaged Nua, "What on earth is going on right now?" A few seconds later, Nua's reply came, 133 galactic years ago. You dispatched a fleet to purge all of the Milky Way. After restructuring the galaxy, you established the Star River Empire. But on the very day after the Empire was successfully established, you suddenly vanished without a trace. Since then, under the leadership of Pangu and myself, the Empire began its long journey. On one hand, continuing to expand and strengthen the Empire's power, and on the other leading massive fleets across the cosmos to search for your trace. During one of our search missions to the Andromeda Galaxy, the fleet led by Shui encountered a formidable enemy. They were from Planet Hills in the Andromeda Galaxy, a fleet belonging to an intelligent synthetic civilization. In that battle, they feigned retreat, but they had actually hacked into Shui's central processing system, taking complete control of Shui. They also found out about your disappearance, so they planned to use Shui as a pawn to find you and seize supreme authority. I anxiously messaged back, "Can my subjects still help? Is there a way to take control from inside the fleet?" The subjects of the Dragon Fleet can be trusted. There is a chance we can shut down the AI permissions and manually take control of the fleet. Nua's message popped up right after. I am going to take control of the fleet to build a wormhole. We will have to cut contact for now. We can reach Earth in 3 days at the absolute fastest. Please, you must protect yourself. The chat interface vanished, and my phone went back to normal. But 3 days, that is way too long for me. Shui will definitely resort to more extreme measures to find me. I stared at the screen. When a plan suddenly came to mind, I would register a short video account. I would post a message to Shui to buy some time. The account was registered in no time. I typed out a message, along with an image of the human symbol. If you want to see me, first withdraw the Dragon Fleet from the solar system, and send Chen Ming to Earth at 7 a.m. the day after tomorrow. Only then will I tell you where we will meet. Shay, this is your only choice. And it is my direct order. Nua had already masked my phone's IP address, so even if the entire internet saw the video, they would never trace where it came from. The second the video went live, the comments section exploded. Oh look, another lunatic clout chaser. We already had dozens of self-proclaimed heads of state yesterday. Are they seriously still clout chasing? But suddenly every single student's phone went completely black. Then the screens lit up again and Shui's projection appeared. A synthesized robotic voice echoed, "My lord, Nua and Pangu have been compromised by a higher civilization. Where are you? Only you can save the Empire now." These words instantly spread across the globe, sending the internet into an absolute frenzy. The alien leader is actually on Earth. That video from earlier was actually real. Deep in the vacuum of space, the World Federation's spaceship drifted quietly. Suddenly, one of the astronauts paled in sheer terror. He pointed out the porthole looking into the distance. His voice was shaking. "Look, that battleship. It's moving." Everyone followed his gaze. A ghostly blue light began to pulse on the surface of the massive alien warships, flashing around the hull like warning sirens. The hatch doors on both sides slowly creaked open. Dozens of massive weapon systems began to deploy. The barrels of their cannons gleamed with a cold metallic light. "Oh my god, what are they doing?" Another astronaut shrieked in horror. "Hurry, report this to ground control. Something is terribly wrong." But before the transmission could even go through, the colossal warships accelerated, heading straight for the blue planet. The friction of the atmosphere set their metallic hulls ablaze. In an instant, alarms blared simultaneously across every space command center on Earth. Inside the ground command center, the commander roared, demanding immediate updates. "All units go to DEFCON 1. On the giant screen, countless battleships broke through the clouds. They hovered over the blue planet like descending gods. Their massive turrets pointed straight down at the ground. Dark red lightning crackled along the barrels, as if they were about to unleash absolute fury at any second. Panic gripped humanity, reaching a boiling point. For the first time, everyone truly realized just how powerless they were. Even the smallest of the warships was several kilometers long, and the largest stretched for over 10,000 kilometers. The sky-blotting oppression cast the entire world into a terrifying dead silence. Back in the university dorm room, Gu Jing clutched his phone tightly, staring out at the sky with a furrowed brow. Most of the alien warships descended upon the Eastern District. In City C alone, where I was, there were more than a dozen of them, and one of the main flagships was hovering right over our campus. In less than half an hour, the military had already established a tight perimeter around the warship. In City C, the Supreme Commander stood on the command vessel with a group of high-ranking officials. His eyes were filled with absolute shock. He immediately ordered a global live broadcast. 1 hour later, the warship's hatch slowly creaks open. From inside the 10-meter-long corridor, echoes the sound of heavy, synchronized footsteps. First, two people in off-white uniforms step out. They have black hair and dark eyes, and their faces look exactly like the people of the Eastern Sector. Right behind them, a slender silhouette appears. She is a commanding, stunning woman in a dark red military uniform. Step by step, she walks down from the warship. Her eyes sweep over the crowd, and she speaks without a hint of emotion. I am a first-class citizen of the Galactic Empire, commander of the Dragon Fleet Shen Ruoshui. The crowd falls into a dead silence, but the livestream chat instantly explodes. I stare at the screen as a deep sense of familiarity washes over me. This flagship was designed by my own hands years ago. It is the core ship of the Dragon Fleet, and although the name Shen Ruoshui is unfamiliar, it reminds me of a legendary veteran of the fleet from the game. Shen Lian. Shen Lian is one of the Empire's most famous generals. Since she is his descendant and already a captain, this girl is definitely a force to be reckoned with. I need to find the leader as soon as possible. According to the information we have, the leader should be in C City. Shen Ruoshui's voice breaks the silence. She pauses for a moment and continues, "As long as you can help us find the leader, I can make the executive decision to provide technical support to the Eastern Sector and help you enter the interstellar era." These words strike like a thunderbolt, instantly sending the entire world into a frenzy. Netizens from all over the globe are going absolutely wild. Could the Blue Star really be entering the interstellar era? Is the Eastern Sector finally going to rise? But the netizens of Country H and Country R are protesting furiously. We are the true descendants of the aliens. Why does the Eastern Sector get to monopolize the rewards? Shen Ruoshui completely ignores the uproar, as her gaze sweeps over the leader of West City. I've locked onto the target area. Leader, they're within a 10-kilometer radius of my position. Deploy forces to seal off this area immediately. No one is allowed in or out. Well done. I'll provide you with some additional cutting-edge interstellar technology. The local director's eyes flashed with intense excitement. Cutting-edge interstellar technology. This meant the Eastern District would firmly establish itself in the solar system. But he quickly calmed down, as a seed of doubt crept into his mind. Since they can already pinpoint the target within 10 kilometers, why do they still need us to lock it down? You don't need to doubt anything. Shen Ruoshui's voice suddenly rang out. Looking at the director's stunned expression, she added, "If I really wanted to deal with you, I wouldn't need to scheme like this." A chill ran down the director's spine. He listened as she continued. The fleet was hovering outside Langson earlier to fix a bug in the artificial intelligence's system. Then Shen Ruoshui waved her hand toward the battleship. As space warped slightly, a figure made of water condensed and took shape, kneeling on one knee before Shen Ruoshui. "Let's go, let's take a good look at this Langson," Shen Ruoshui said to the water figure, and then stepped onto the director's helicopter. Right after, she pulled a dice-sized metal cube from her pocket and tossed it onto the cabin floor. The metal cube instantly unfolded upon landing, as fine golden threads spread like wildfire, wrapping around the entire metal frame in a flash. The fuselage transformed into a dark black steel frame, and the rotors were replaced with a special high-tech material. Next, the helicopter began to expand, doubling in size like a transformer. The Gatling guns, on both sides, transformed into aerodynamic laser cannons, and the ammo bay was upgraded to a compressed air honeycomb launcher. In just a dozen seconds, a standard human helicopter. The chopper actually transformed into an alien gunship. Everyone was left completely speechless. Hurry up, time to get to work. Shen Ruoshui was the first aboard. The others quickly followed her. The chopper flew to the command center in the middle of the city. Shen Ruoshui gave her command, "Take control of every single electronic device in this area." The Sovereign once broadcasted a video through these devices, so we'll start our search right here. Back in my dorm, I stared at the black icon on my phone screen. A growing sense of dread filled my chest. The threat is now dangerously close to me. The situation has reached its most critical moment. I took a deep breath, accessed the highest level of authorization, and sent a message to Nua. At this very moment in the deep recesses of space, a massive fleet was stationed right next to a wormhole. Tens of thousands of battleships were fully prepped and ready to deploy. Everyone present was filled with immense anticipation, ready to welcome back the Sovereign they hadn't seen in years. Every single subject of the Empire was immersed in pure joy, and everyone was talking about the Sovereign, wondering just how unbelievably powerful he had become. Remember when the Sovereign led us to storm the Noel sector? Back then, none of you were even around yet. An elderly man slowly walked toward the head seat. The surrounding soldiers saluted in unison. "Greetings, old General Shen." The old man waved his hand and reminisced. Back then, the Sovereign only had about 1,000 battleships under his command, and most of them were already heavily damaged. Yet he fearlessly charged right into the Knoll sector. Do you boys really understand the weight of that? That place was ranked in the top 10 of the Galactic Pirate Board, the core territory of the Marauders. Just to secure the Pato Gem and upgrade our fleet, we withstood the fierce onslaught of over 30,000 enemy ships. Artillery fire tore the star system apart, and the fierce battle raged on for days and nights. 80% of our ships were blown to pieces, yet the Sovereign stood on the bridge of the flagship, never taking a single step back. In the end, he personally piloted our sole remaining battleship, broke through the enemy lines, and cut down the Marauder leader in a single strike. The sky full of enemy warships instantly lost their leader. They suddenly fell apart, fleeing in utter panic. The blazing fire and wreckage of that battle still makes my blood boil just thinking about it. The soldiers' eyes are filled with admiration. Tomorrow they will finally see their sovereign. He must still be just like he was, standing tall as the ultimate god of war. Looking at the message I sent Nua, quickly replies, "Shen Rokshui is a descendant of Shen Lian. The subjects of the Empire are absolutely loyal to you. As for Shui, it is impossible for him to have a loophole. After all these years, aside from his system priority being lower than mine and Pangu's, all his other capabilities reached our level a long time ago. That loophole must be an act. He is deliberately guiding Shen Rokshui to land on Langson, to search for you." From the sound of Nua's words, it is highly likely that Shui now has the power to bypass Chen Ming and seize absolute control of the Dragon Fleet. I stare at the message, my brow furrowed. There are still 18 hours until Nua arrives. I must come up with a plan immediately. Suddenly, the dorm lights begin to flicker. My roommate's phone signal goes haywire, and the screen goes pitch black. I look down at my own phone, but everything is normal. The next second, my roommate's screen lights up, and Shui's figure appears on it. His voice blares through the speaker. "My sovereign! I have found you." My heart sinks, but I quickly calm myself. If Shui had truly locked onto me, he would have made his move already. This kind of broadcast most likely means he has only narrowed down my general location. I immediately get up, slipping out through a back alley to find a place to hide. But the moment I reach the wasteland outside campus, I see several warships hovering in the sky. The hatch of one of them slides open, and thousands of 1-meter-sized machines. The mosquito drones swarmed out, dispersing in all directions. Inside the command center, Shen Rokshui frowned. I don't remember giving the order to deploy the scouts. By targeting the street vendors area, sending the mosquito drones will help us find the Sovereign much faster. Shui explained, his face completely expressionless. The Crimson Fleet's absolute highest priority is to search the universe for the Sovereign. Every other mission must take a backseat to this one. And since Shui was an AI, originally created by the Sovereign himself, and later granted authorization by Nua and Pangu, finding the Sovereign had become his ultimate hard-coded directive. Bypassing her authority to deploy the scouts was probably just a desperate move to find the Sovereign sooner. Completely unaware of anything unusual about Shui's behavior, Shen Rokshui nodded, her eyes brimming with anticipation. She had idolized the Sovereign since she was a little girl, and now she was finally going to meet him in person. Meanwhile, just as I ducked behind a massive tree, I ran smack into one of those mosquito drones. The drone hovered just 3 meters in front of me, its red eyes scanning me up and down. In an instant, I recognized it. It was an armed scout bot from the Crimson Fleet, packed with over 30 types of weapons, and extremely lethal. I spun on my heel and bolted, but the mosquito drone was hot on my heels. Even after sprinting 10 kilometers straight, I still couldn't shake it. Suddenly, the drone dived straight at me, its eyes flashing with a menacing red light, as it began a full-body scan. At that exact critical moment, the phone in my pocket suddenly started vibrating violently. Then the surrounding mosquito drones all spun around and headed straight for me. Shoot! The moment I unlocked my phone, a glaring red warning box popped up on the screen. "Sovereign, the situation is critical. I've already uploaded a quantum shield program directly to your terminal. It can temporarily assemble the probes to form close body armor. Our fleet is currently jumping through the Alpha wormhole to reinforce you. Please, you must buy us some time." Without a moment's hesitation, I slammed my finger down on the activation button. Instantly, a beam of deep blue light shot out, expanding in mid-air into a translucent energy barrier. The swarm of buzzing mechanical mosquitoes right in front of me suddenly froze dead in mid-air. Their flashing crimson optical sensors rapidly shifted to a docile emerald green. In a perfectly orderly formation, they descended slightly in the air, and spoke in a steady, respectful synthesized voice. Lord Sovereign, Probe 44,507 presents its highest respects to you. My frayed nerves finally began to ease up a bit. Initiate armor deployment mode. My deep voice had lost its usual frantic rush, replaced by the calm confidence of being in complete control. The moment the command left my lips, the mechanical mosquitoes hovering in the air simultaneously initiated their dismantling protocol. Hundreds of micro-components traced silver streaks through the air, as if pulled by an invisible gravitational force, rapidly converging into a flowing torrent of liquid metal. Slowly, I raised my right arm. First, 3 curved steel plates snapped precisely into place, wrapping from my fingertips upward along the contours of my arm. The shoulder plates and chest guard, then the waist and midsection locked together in sequence. The hydraulic systems at my joints released a soft pressurized hiss. The matte black metal surface, mapped with delicate lines of glowing energy, gleamed with a cold, fierce luster under the light. In just 3 seconds, the full-body armor suit was completely deployed. Sleek, streamlined contours carved out, physique radiating immense power, like a war machine straight out of the future. Inside the armor's built-in tactical display, a faint blue glow projected right onto his retina, while virtual weapon stats scrolled by in real time. He slowly raised his right hand, as the energy core between his fingers clicked softly, aiming at a spot not too far away, a dilapidated abandoned house. He locked onto the target with nothing but his mind. Far, far away from Earth on planet Hyles stood a massive pyramid-shaped structure. At the very top of this building, several humanoid beings made entirely of metal sat gathered around a massive round table. And the one in the very center was the supreme commander of the Andromeda Galaxy's Hyles civilization. His name was Vic, and just like Nua and Pangu, he was a super intelligent being with full self-awareness. The only difference was that, on the very first day his consciousness awakened, Vic went all in on building his own creations. Over the past 100 years, the Hyles civilization established by Vic became completely secure. As their civilization rapidly advanced, his ambition gradually expanded across the universe. When he crossed paths with the Dragon Fleet led by Shui, he decisively launched a cyber invasion. Shay's AI core was now floating right in front of him, inside a glowing purple crystal. This crystal was used to hijack and control Shui's core, and it was known as Monstanite. Monstanite was also called the Star of Machines. Its primary function was to effectively disrupt and control any intelligent life form. Commander Vic, our entire task force has assembled, and Fleet 92 is currently opening a wormhole. It should be fully operational in 10 hours. Vic nodded in approval. As long as Shui could capture the sovereign of the Galactic Empire, he would be able to seize their highest level of authority and elevate the Hyles civilization to unprecedented heights. As the purple crystal in front of him suddenly began to shift, feeds from the distant blue planet began to flicker onto the screen. Inside the Sea City Command Center, chaos erupted without warning. Shenrua Shui and the core members of the Galactic Empire stared at the rapidly deteriorating situation before them, their faces filled with utter shock. No one could have predicted that as the Dragon-class warship's very AI core Shui would suddenly turn rogue. An ominous premonition washed over everyone like a tidal wave. Notify the flagship crew, reset the AI core system immediately. Strip Shui of all control privileges. A fierce glint flashed in Shenrua Shui's eyes as she raised her hand and pressed the silver ring on her ring finger. It was the controller for the fleet's combat units. She barked out the order, but the command was met with absolute silence. There was no movement outside the window. The ring didn't even emit a sliver of indicator light. How can this be? Her heart sank. She pressed the ring twice more in rapid succession, her voice tightening even more. Nebula Fighter Squad, scramble for combat! But all that answered her was the deathly silence filling the command center. It's useless! Shay's voice suddenly turned freezing cold, like an icicle piercing the air. Before the words could even fade, the ceiling suddenly blew apart with a deafening crash. Several metallic wind-shearing screeches whistled downward as a swarm of mechanical mosquito drones swooped down. 2 pairs of sharp rear legs instantly clamped down on Shen Ruoxue's arms, pinning her firmly to the spot. The remaining mosquito drones deployed in a circular formation, aiming their laser cannons directly at the Sea City leaders, yet they didn't fire immediately. Don't be afraid. Your lives are still useful to me. Rest assured I won't kill you. Shui's gaze swept over everyone in the room, devoid of any warmth. Then turning, Shui transformed into a stream of water, shooting out through the hole in the ceiling, heading straight toward our position. Meanwhile, my battle out on the wasteland has already begun. Clad in my mecha suit, I move like a ghost darting across the battlefield. Right now I only have one goal, to retake control of the fleet. But Shui was obviously prepared for this. The moment he issued the command, a swarm of mechanical drones filled the sky like a suffocating black cloud. A dense dark mass instantly blocked out the sky right above me. I thrust my arms forward, and from the forearms of my mecha, a 20 billion meter long alloy blade instantly slid out. Its cold light flashed blindingly in the sun. The next second I leaped straight into the swarm of drones. Slashing as I slid, the air filled with the ear-piercing sound of tearing metal. Even though Shui had equipped these drones with anti-control systems, the protection program Nua implanted was still highly effective. The drones closest to me were the first to glitch. The electromagnetic waves around them fluctuated wildly, and their flight paths began to veer off course. Seizing the opportunity, I flashed right next to the nearest drone. With a single thought, the Sovereign's command surged into its system like an electric current. The drone's electromagnetic shielding instantly collapsed. Its red eyes suddenly flashed green, and it veered around, slamming hard into its neighbor. A chain reaction exploded instantly. 1, then 2, then 10. Until a massive swarm of drones lit up with green eyes, becoming forces under my command. Watching this from afar, Shui's voice suddenly turned into a furious shriek. The scouts have defected. We must stop him from getting near the fleet. In an instant, the remaining uncontrolled drones redirected their lasers all at once. Countless searing beams of light wove into a deadly web across the sky, raining down on me and my defected drones. The air erupted with the continuous screech of lasers cutting through it. My defected drones immediately shifted into a defensive formation, shielding me with its metal frame. I floor my mecha's thrusters, rocketed toward the warship like a falling meteor. My eyes are locked dead on the outline of the mothership up ahead. Once I break into that hull, I can activate my sovereign authority and completely sever water's control. This clash of super technologies is being broadcast live to the entire planet, leaving every nation instantly stunned. Inside the command rooms of both nations, the commander slams his fist onto the table. Initiate the evacuation plan immediately. The East Zone is about to take the brunt of this war. Have the Vanguard salvage the wreckage of the mechanical mosquitoes while they can. We must bring them back for research. With that, he grabs his walkie-talkie and rushes straight to the Doomsday Bunker with his core staff. Out on the wasteland, water hovers in midair facing me down from a distance. His body glistens with an eerie watery reflection under the sun. Every single micro movement he makes is transmitted through his purple mechanical heart, feeding back in real time to Planet Hills. Inside a towering pyramid structure on the planet, Vic stares intently at a crystal screen. When he spots me clad in my mecha suit, fiery greed blazes in his eyes. Finally, I've found you, the legendary godlike sovereign of the Galactic Empire. How very interesting. After just a few minutes of standoff, Water's body suddenly warps violently. The liquid currents making up his body wildly scatter, thrashing with high-pressure toxic energy. He looks like he's in agonizing pain. My sovereign, someone is hacking my system. He stammers out, his voice cracking and glitching. But in the next second, his tone shifts completely, sounding deceitfully pleading, my sovereign, quick use the supreme command to take control of me and purge this anomaly program. The tight scowl on my face slowly relaxes, and a mocking smirk plays on my lips. This puppet master trying to control water? Wow, they really can't wait, can they? Without wasting a single second, I gunned it straight toward the warship, accelerating without pause. Seeing this, Shui barked in fury, and with a sharp wave of his hand, sent waves of mechanical mosquito drones swarming out of the warship, desperately trying to block my path. My mecha's thrusters roared at full throttle, pushing my speed to the absolute limit. As I drew closer and closer to the flagship, just then, the internet suddenly exploded. Shui had captured footage of me through the drone cameras and broadcast it live across the entire Blue Star network. In the feed, my figure clad in the high-tech mecha was clear as day. The comment sections immediately went wild. Is that really the Supreme Leader? Nah, he looks so incredibly young. Wait, hang on. Isn't that my roommate? As shockwaves rippled through the public, countless others were utterly awestruck by the mecha's insane level of technology. As the chatter spread like wildfire over on Planet Hills, Vic stared at the screen and barked out urgent orders. Shy execute the command. We absolutely cannot let him get near the flagship. Order a long-range strike and blast his mecha back. The mosquito drones chasing close behind me suddenly pivoted in unison, locking their laser cannons dead on target. In a split second, countless beams of light wove together, forming an airtight wall of devastating firepower, and blasted straight toward me. You traitor, how dare you lay a hand on the Supreme Leader? Held captive near the flagship, Shenro glared with eyes bloodshot from pure rage, and let out a deafening roar. As a loyal subject of the Empire, Ever since the day he was born, unwavering devotion to the Supreme Leader had been branded into his very soul. Shay's blatant betrayal had completely ignited his furious wrath, but Shoei didn't even look back, his attention entirely fixed on controlling the drone swarm. The onslaught only grew more brutal. Deep in the vast expanse of space, Nua sensed my imminent danger. Meanwhile, inside the flagship's command center, a middle-aged man suddenly lunges forward, dropping to his knee. "My sovereign, please give the order. Let me lead the fleet to wipe out the Hill's civilization. We must erase them from the universe once and for all." Nua furrows her brow, her eyes locked on the star chart displayed on the console. After a few silent seconds, she slowly shakes her head. Pangu is leading the Eternal Fleet, right now in the Gamma S48 Nebula. They're extremely close to Planet Hills. It will only take them 6 hours to arrive, 4 hours faster than it would take us to reach Land Star. Transmit my command. Every fleet near the Andromeda Galaxy is to rendezvous with the Eternal Fleet immediately. Pangu will take unified command for an all-out assault on the Hill's civilization. This war decides the survival of our empire. Every citizen must fight to the very end. The command propagates like an electric wave across the territories of the Galactic Empire. Countless warship engines roar to life, marching at full speed toward the Hills sector. Within the fleet, several gray-haired veteran generals put on their long mothballed mecha suits with trembling hands. The clank of cold metal echoes their unyielding will to fight. On Planet Hills, Vic receives the news that the Galactic Empire is launching a counterattack. A flash of panic crosses his eyes, but he quickly regains his composure. He swiftly deploys all of his forces, rallying every single remaining warship to establish a defensive line at the outer perimeter of the Hills sector. Tell the task force to speed up. Once they reach Land Star, they must immediately capture the Galactic Empire's key operative. As long as we can seize their highest clearance, our Hills civilization will surely ascend to the next level. Meanwhile, in the skies above Sea City, I was weaving through the dense crossfire when my Fury Mecha's outer hull was struck by several lasers. My defensive shields plummeted to 30%. Even the enemy ships I hacked and took control of suffered devastating losses. Gritting my teeth, I pushed the engines to the limit, leaving only a fraction of the distance to the flagship. With only a few hundred meters left, the water monster suddenly did something absolutely insane. He raised his hand, pointing it directly at the heart of City C. Dozens of killer drones broke away from the battlefield and headed straight for the city center. My eyes flared with absolute fury. Those drones didn't hesitate for a single second, launching an indiscriminate attack on the ground below. As their lasers swept across, innocent citizens were instantly vaporized. Every time a beam struck, skyscrapers and reinforced concrete snapped like paper. Entire buildings sheared clean in half, collapsing with a deafening crash. Thick dust and smoke choked the air, trapping countless people beneath the rubble. As the global audience watched this live broadcast, fury erupted all over the world. I may be the sovereign of the Star River, but I am still a son of the Blue Star. How can I, a man of the Eastern District, stand by and watch my compatriots suffer? With no other choice, I had to split my forces, directing most of our controlled drones back to the city. Our rescue operations were forced to a painful crawl, while the enemy's attack only grew more brutal. Right then, the stances of the Blue Star's nations finally became clear. On the frozen plains of the Northern District, an army of tens of thousands had fully assembled. Yekanovsky stood before his troops, raising his fist to roar, "Comrades, we fight for the very survival of humanity. We are the pride of the Northern District. We are the heroes of mankind." Tens of thousands of voices roared back in unison, their battle cry shaking the very earth. Armored vehicles rumbled to life, charging toward City C. Meanwhile, inside the Beacon Nation's Congress room, Schneider spoke in a grim voice. "If we let this water monster have its way, the Blue Star is doomed. We have to help." But not every nation chose to stand for justice. The leaders of other nations argued endlessly. The Warhawks have gained the upper hand. The military command has already begun secretly mobilizing their forces, scheming to exploit the chaos for their own gain. Moments later, the roar of over 100 Nation-H fighter jets came screaming directly from the east. The fires of war are already raging. The entire world's eyes are locked onto the western wastelands. I stare at the mothership drawing closer and closer, gritting my teeth. If I can just get inside that ship, I can finally put an end to this tragedy. Meanwhile, in the deep recesses of space, Pangu's fleet is charting a course through the nebula. The defensive line in the Hills sector is steadily taking shape. A massive clash that will decide the fate of both the galaxy and the Blue Star is on the verge of erupting. While the rest of the world braces for war, high above Linhai City, Zhongfeng stands tall and proud. Right beneath him, countless robotic mosquitoes are tightly packed together. They form a colossal, impenetrable barrier, looming like a massive pitch-black shield, guarding the flagship below. Standing there, Zhang Feng gazes calmly down at the barrier. Around him, hardly any robotic mosquitoes are left circling. After enduring such a grueling battle, the swarm he once commanded has been completely wiped out. The few that remain pale in comparison to the massive barrier before him. They look pitifully small, completely stripped of the strength to fight back. Yet through this relentless onslaught, he managed to draw closer to the flagship. If he can just break through this barrier, his chances of seizing control of the entire fleet will skyrocket. Zhang Feng stares at the barrier, unsure of where to make his move. But beneath his calm exterior, his mind is racing, desperately searching for a weak point. The resources left in his hands are pitifully scarce. Trying to force his way through is almost impossible. But right now it seems like he has no other choice. No matter how much he analyzes the situation, charging straight through is the only way left. Hovering in mid-air inside his defensive mecha, Zhang Feng analyzed its defensive capabilities and felt a wave of disappointment. The shielding was just too weak, even though it had already been boosted to its absolute limit. Compared to the devastating damage he was about to take, it was practically nothing. Was he really going to die in battle right here? Zhang Feng looked down at the familiar city below, watching the panicked citizens running for their lives. He let out a silent sigh. This bizarre event had completely shattered his quiet, normal life. He used to think he would be like the hero of some novel, tearing through enemies with ultimate plot armor. Even if he had to face 10 times as many robotic swarms as this, he would still easily tear them to pieces. And then in the blink of an eye, he would instantly subdue the water monster on the spot. But reality was nothing like that. He wasn't some chosen hero, he was just an ordinary guy. And now he was about to pay for this sudden disaster with his very life. A bitter mix of emotions welled up inside him. Right now he couldn't even describe what he was feeling. You only have a life so you can fight for it. There will come a day when you have to risk everything for something that matters. Some people are so pathetic, they never even get a chance to fight for their lives. They spend their entire lives just watching others play the hero. Somehow, those words suddenly echoed in Zhang Feng's mind. As the weight of those words sank in, his eyes locked onto the massive barrier, and his gaze hardened with resolve. He knew his time to risk everything had finally come. And right then, on the massive barrier above, the Liquid Man's figure slowly materializes. Sovereign Fengshen! Wars between civilizations don't always have to end in total destruction. I can let you keep serving the Empire and build a great new empire alongside me. You are already at the end of your rope. Stop this meaningless resistance. I'm still giving you a chance to surrender. Don't force me to kill you. For the sake of the Empire, you should make the wise choice. The Liquid Man's voice rings out next, filled with absolute confidence and dripping with heavy menace. He wants to take the safest route to obtain the highest clearance, which is why he threatens Zhang Feng over and over again like this. Zhang Feng knows his game inside out. As for the Liquid Man's threats, Zhang Feng can't even be bothered to reply anymore. His eyes are locked dead on the barrier right in front of him. While the Liquid Man keeps talking, deep down inside, Zhang Feng is already gearing up for a counterattack. Even if it means death, he will die fighting right here today. Even though he's never been a lawman, that unyielding spirit in his eastern blood is boiling hot. Just as Zhang Feng is about to strike back, a notification suddenly pops up, a message from the Supreme Clearance. Zhang Feng knows it's Nua, and quickly opens it to take a look. Feng, you can use your mech to modify and upgrade your body. This method of gaining power has side effects, but right now it's your only chance of standing against the Liquid Man. Just hang in there for a few hours. I've already sent forces to wipe out the Hilton civilization. Once I arrive at Langston, I'll reverse the side effects for you. The citizens of the Empire are all waiting to bleed and fight for you. You have to hold on. The Empire absolutely cannot survive without you. Staring at the message from Nua, a golden glint flashed in Zhang Feng's eyes. Using a mecha to boost one's own power was a feature Zhang Feng genuinely knew nothing about. After all, he hadn't programmed any such sequence back in the day. It was likely developed during the past 100 years, as an upgrade by Nua and the others. But he also noted Nua's warning. This feature came with massive side effects. For Nua to wait until the absolute direst moment before finally telling him meant the consequences were bound to be devastating. Zhang Feng closed out of Nua's message and unlocked the system. The hidden mecha function immediately flashed onto the screen before him. Vision power. Looking at the dangerous details in the description, Zhang Feng got a basic idea of how this feature worked. This was a feature designed specifically for the citizens of the Empire, invented as a last resort. Once the mechanical sigils transformed into battle armor, there was still a chance that the citizens would be outmatched by their enemies. In such desperate situations, the citizens could activate fission power, allowing the machine to forcefully boost their abilities, reconstructing and rewriting their genetic code, and even manifesting powerful awakened abilities. However, the side effects of this function were extremely severe, and could even cause the direct death of the user. But in a life-or-death situation, it became a desperate measure they had no choice but to use. After this genetic modification technology was first developed, it was immediately banned by the Empire because it posed a severe hazard to human health and threatened the stability of imperial society. It wasn't until later, when Nuwa refined the technology, that it was successfully integrated into weaponry, reserved strictly for warfare. Even then, the use of this feature remained under incredibly strict control, ensuring it wouldn't pose a threat to the Empire. At this very moment, Zhang Feng had finally hit a point where he had no choice but to use it. Staring at the unpredictable side effects and the flashing red danger warnings, Zhang Feng glanced at the massive barrier ahead. He steeled his resolve and slammed confirm, initiating the transformation. Empire citizenship verified. Fission ability initializing. Highest authority command detected. System functions maximized. Initiating supergene fission protocol. Highest command defense system online. Neutralizing side effects. One after another system alerts echoed inside Zhang Feng's mind, all coming from the mech running its scans. But at that exact moment, an agonizing pain shot straight through his heart. It was a soul-crushing, tearing pain, making him break out in a cold sweat and nearly black out. He knew his genetic makeup was rewriting itself. Down on the ground, the waterman spotted what was happening up in the sky, noticing Zhang Feng's bizarre change. Watching him writhe and contort, the waterman recognized what it was instantly. His cocky attitude vanished, replaced by a gasp of shock. Fission ability. The next second, a terrifying attack surged from all directions, charging straight at Zhang Feng. The reason the waterman panicked wasn't because he feared a stronger transformed Zhang Feng. Sure, the fission ability did indeed bring a massive boost to an ordinary person's power. The waterman had seen his fair share of it, but that still wasn't enough to strike terror into his heart. He feared that if Zhang Feng used this forbidden function, the side effects would kill him on the spot. If that happened, even the highest authority clearance would be lost, and that was something he absolutely could not allow. So he was desperate to cut off Zhang Feng's activation. On top of that, mid-transformation, Zhang Feng was currently writhing in sheer agony, making him completely vulnerable. This is also the perfect moment to bring Zhang Feng down, which is exactly why the waterman launched his attack without a single hesitation. Meanwhile, high up in the sky, Zhang Feng is feeling an absolute tearing agony rip through his entire body. It feels like his muscles and nerves, down to every single cell, are being violently torn apart, only to be forced to reconstruct, even deep inside his brain. This excruciating transformation is taking place. The intense pain is pushing him to the very brink of passing out, and his vision is starting to blur. Dark, blurry floaters begin to cloud his eyes. After all, he still has the body of an ordinary human. Just a fragile flesh and blood vessel that wouldn't even survive a single bullet. Undergoing a genetic modification of this extreme intensity is practically like walking through the very depths of hell. Yet even so, through his blurry, fouling eyes, he can still clearly see the massive barrage of lasers screaming right toward him. It's a massive, blinding sheet of light raining down like a meteor shower. He knows that if this attack connects, he'll either be killed instantly or shot clean out of the sky. If that happens, he'll be completely at the waterman's mercy, stripped of any chance to fight back. Locked in this agonizing struggle, Zhang Feng forces himself to stay focused. Right before the deadly barrage hits, he unleashes his absolute maximum speed to evade. His mecha suit is the ultimate product of maximum clearance and peak technology. Its performance specs and capabilities are light years ahead of any standard machine. In the blink of an eye, the micro-drones maneuver him right out of the blast zone. Even though some stray shots from the periphery still manage to leak through, the mechanical micro-drones surrounding Zhang Feng expertly form a shield to intercept the incoming fire. And this crucial defense buys Zhang Feng some much-needed time. Inside him, the hypergene mutation is still raging on, and the cells in Zhang Feng's body are beginning to undergo an even more radical transformation. Thanks to his maximum clearance level, the depth of his genetic evolution, far surpassing any of his ordinary subjects, his physical appearance began to change drastically. His facial features grew even more majestic and razor-sharp. Every bit of excess human fat was melting away. His already handsome face became incredibly chiseled. His muscles surged and expanded, each fiber becoming terrifyingly defined. They were absolutely flawless. Inside his body, his organs were undergoing a complete evolution. Even his bone density was skyrocketing, making them harder than solid steel. His blood was pumping faster, his heart beating with immense power as his brain's neurons multiplied. His reflexes and sensory feedback shot through the roof. He could see incredibly far, his vision growing sharper and brighter. He could hear everything, with perfect clarity, and his reaction speed multiplied exponentially. His thoughts raced at lightning speed. Even his presence began to surge with overwhelming force, unleashing an otherworldly grace from deep within him. A power that transcended this world, a regal majesty towering above everything else, took form. Around him, there began to form a powerful force field that actually warped the surrounding magnetic field. The aura of a true sovereign, an absolute ruler of an empire, was born from this evolution. And it wasn't over yet. Zhang Feng's body was still undergoing an even more radical transformation. He was growing stronger by the second. Any dangerous side effects were intercepted by his system's ultimate self-defense protocols, completely neutralizing them. Meanwhile, his silhouette blurred as he flashed across the sky, moving faster and faster with each passing moment. Endless attacks from the water construct exploded harmlessly in his wake, but they couldn't even touch him. With a roar, the blurriness in his vision finally cleared away. Instead, they were replaced by eyes as sharp as an eagle's and as cold as an iceberg. The mechanical drones swirling around him also seemed to react instantly now under his much more fluid control, deflecting the onslaught with absolute precision. A few minutes later, the agonizing pain inside Zhang Feng's body completely vanished. His genetic reconstruction was finally complete. Just when Zhang Feng thought the ordeal was over, in the very next second, the system's voice chimed in once more. Super gene fission complete. Initiating super ability purification process. Overdrive defense protocols online. Neutralizing side effects. In the next instant, Zhang Feng's body began to morph yet again. But this time there was absolutely no pain. In fact, Zhang Feng didn't even notice any difference in himself. He only felt something deep within him, as if something were moving around, like a tiny mechanical insect crawling through his internal organs. But Zhang Feng had no time to ponder this, because the Liquid Man's next ferocious assault was already upon him. He kicked his speed up another notch, bolting toward another direction. Just as he barely managed to evade the strike, right behind him, a massive energy beam nearly 100 meters wide came blasting toward him. Its speed was mind-bogglingly fast, and since Zhang Feng had only just dodged the Liquid Man's first attack, this new beam was already right on his heels. He had absolutely no room left to maneuver. Faced with the terrifying speed of the colossal beam, nothing but a blinding white light filled Zhang Feng's vision. From below in the eyes of the Liquid Man, Zhang Feng was completely swallowed up by the light. As the devastating beam surged relentlessly, Zhang Feng was entirely engulfed, with not a single trace of him left to be seen. From the ground below, the Liquid Man's maniacal laughter echoed through the air. That laughter shook the very heavens, as if celebrating his hard-won victory. And this very scene was also broadcast live to the entire world, before the eyes of everyone. At this moment, the whole world went dead silent. Everyone held their breath, unable to speak. It was as if the air itself had solidified. Time seemed to freeze in this very instant. A dark, ominous dread washed over humanity. In the minds of countless people, a terrifying thought began to take hold. The sovereign has fallen in battle. The eyes of the entire world were glued to the live broadcast. A massive beam of light 100 meters wide and shot out from the fleet, piercing straight into the starry galaxy. Zhang Feng and his last remaining mechanical mosquito drones were completely swallowed by the colossal beam of light. Second after second passed, as time rapidly slipped away. But Zhang Feng's figure never appeared again. On the live broadcast, only the waterman's wild laughter echoed. "Sovereign! This is your destiny." That voice sent shivers down everyone's spines. In the hearts of everyone, that same terrifying thought surged once again. For over 10 seconds, the entire world fell into a deathly silence. Has the sovereign really fallen? Humanity is doomed. A single comment appeared in the chat, and in the next moment, a flood of messages surged like a tidal wave. Fear like a plague spread across the entire world in an instant. Oh my god, how could this be the end? Is the sovereign really gone? Just like that? What are we going to do now? Are the watermen really going to slaughter all of us? Is humanity truly going to be completely wiped out? I don't want to die yet, Sob. Can't the watermen just leave Langston alone? Almighty God, please give humanity a chance to survive. Is this great civilization really going to be destroyed just like this? In the end, the supreme leader is just outnumbered and alone. He's no match for the waterman. I hope in my next life I can still be one of the leader's subjects. Let's launch a final battle against these aliens. Even if humanity is truly doomed, we should go down fighting. Fight until the very last second, and fight to the last man. It all feels like a dream. It came so fast. and it's leaving just as quickly. The spirit of the Supreme Leader will live on forever. Even if Blue Star is wiped out, well, the rest of the Empire will surely fight to the death. The Waterman will pay for this. Countless comments flooded the live stream. Voices of all kinds filled the chat, but the vast majority of them were filled with sheer terror. The people who had been rioting everywhere suddenly seemed to lose all purpose. They had no idea what the point of any of it was anymore. Countless people fled back to their homes, to be with their families, hoping to spend their final moments together. They held each other and wept. Cries of deep sorrow echoed in every corner of the world. For the first time, humanity fell into absolute utter despair. The Waterman's laughter pierced their hearts like a needle. Everyone could feel that the end of the world was near. The Waterman would still destroy all of Blue Star with that mocking laugh. They would all burn to ashes and vanish into the vast emptiness of the cosmos. It wasn't just the citizens. The world leaders were even more panicked. They had finally prepared to fight for all of humanity, having just made that ultimate choice in their hearts, only for their hope to be instantly shattered. They hadn't even had the chance to reach the battlefield yet. Some nations hadn't even sent out their armies. What do we do? How are we supposed to face this now? Inside the American conference room, everyone watched this unfold in utter shock. A heavy weight settled deep inside everyone's chest, and sheer terror gripped their souls. When someone finally found the courage to ask that question, the room stayed dead silent and no one dared to utter a single word, because honestly, they had absolutely no idea what to do. At this point, any move they made felt completely pointless. The water beings were going to destroy the entire world, and humanity stood zero chance of fighting back. All they could do was sit there and wait for the end. We have to make peace with the water beings. It's our absolute last chance of survival. Schneider stayed silent for a long time before finally letting those words slip. As his voice faded, a heavy silence fell over the room once again. But Your Excellency, doing this is going back on our word. We just announced we would fight for all of humanity. If we back down now, we'll become the laughingstock of the entire world. After a brief pause, someone finally voiced their doubts. Then you tell me, what are we supposed to do? Just sit here and wait for the water beings to slaughter every last one of us. There will be plenty of countries doing the exact same thing. No one is going to laugh at anyone. With human civilization on the line, I'd rather be a laughingstock. Schneider glared at him and spoke without a shred of hesitation. His voice carried a clear edge of anger, but if it meant keeping America alive, this was the only choice he had. Meanwhile, governments all over the world were in frantic discussions. The sovereign's death in battle was now a settled matter. The terrifying realization that the water beings could destroy the world hung heavily over everyone's head. The world leaders who were once full of fight had completely lost their nerve by now. Just like the US, they all hung their heads in defeat, desperately hoping to play nice with the water beings, just to secure a tiny sliver of a chance to survive. They all knew how incredibly humiliating this was, but in the end, every single one of them chose this path anyway. Just because they want to survive, to stay alive, they are willing to do absolutely anything. They used to say they were fighting for all of humanity, but at this very moment, it feels more like they are just fighting for their own survival. Even the Xiong Nation, famous for being a warrior nation, after seeing this message, fell into a deep silence. For a moment, the ghost of decades ago, of the Red Xiong Nation resurfaced, only to vanish again in the blink of an eye. Kateliev ordered all the marching legions to halt, telling them to stand by right where they were. But Kateliev didn't back down, or chicken out like the other nations. He simply couldn't bear the shame. The leader's words were still echoing in his ears. The leader looked at humanity as his own children, willing to weaken himself just to save them. If he went back on his word now, he knew he'd never have peace for the rest of his life. Massive legions came to a halt in the east sector, waiting for Kateliev's command. All these warriors who were once fired up now looked completely drained and defeated. The fear in their hearts completely snuffed out their passion to fight. Rumors of the apocalypse spread like wildfire through the ranks, and a heavy, hopeless gloom settled over everyone. Even quite a few of the Xiong Nation's legions were already packing up to retreat. Meanwhile, beyond those nations, Chongdao and Bang, deep in the ocean, had already descended into absolute madness. Inside the council room of Chongdao, the pacifist faction had been completely defeated. The warmongers were cheering and celebrating. The water sovereign's victory was the key to our nation's rise. We must message the fleet immediately to celebrate the sovereign's victory. You absolute fools! The water sovereign is our new leader and the ruler of our future empire. Yes, we must pledge our absolute loyalty to the water sovereign. We are ready to follow in his footsteps and contribute our strength to the Empire. Deploy our legions. Submit to the Water Sovereign. Let our legions receive the blessing of the Water Sovereign. Long live the Chongdao Empire. Our Chongdao Empire will become the master of the New World. We will be the ultimate masters of Langson. The pathetic Eastern Sector can just wait to be destroyed by the Water Sovereign. Once we become the rulers of the world, the Eastern Sector must be the very first place we conquer. I've been eyeing the pretty girls over there for a long time. I'm gonna take all the beautiful girls in the Eastern Sector, lock them up, and make them the servants of our Chongdao Empire, to do our bidding for our amusement. The high-ranking officials in the conference room cheered wildly. Even Jin Shankai Hua had changed his tune by now, completely joining in on their mad celebration. A massive wave of messages was being sent to the fleet. Meanwhile, out on the streets, countless citizens were still marching. Except now they had driven themselves into absolute madness. Throngs of people ran and cheered, celebrating the Waterman's victory, and rejoicing in the death of Sovereign Fengshen. The Bang Nation was just as crazed as the Chongdao Empire. The citizens were partying wildly in the streets. Kim Sun-woong was directing the operations, as crowds of people sent messages to the fleet to pledge their loyalty. The future of the Great Bang Nation is finally here. We will rise to the very top of the world. The Water Sovereign's victory was always destined. Sovereign Fengshen was just a dead man walking. The people of the Eastern Sector should go down with him. Once we take control of Langson, the Eastern Sector will be the first place we seize. The weak Eastern Sector will bow down at our feet. We are going to march into the starry universe and become a supreme existence they will look up to forever. Haha, all hail and serve the Water Sovereign. Dedicate our strength to build the new empire. Long live Leader Waterman. Long live the Great Bang Empire. Long live the new empire. But while they were celebrating in their madness, the entire Eastern District caught right in the crossfire of the battlefield, was completely plunged into a deep, heavy grief. The devastating news of the leader's death in battle completely shattered the hearts of everyone. Xuanyuan Hongwu was trying to make one final desperate decision. The leader's death had plunged the entire Eastern District into absolute mourning. They all knew too well that this was the end of the line for the war. Waterman had won. Justice in the end had failed to triumph over the traitorous evil. The happy, perfect endings from fairy tales were nowhere to be found in their reality. Instead, reality was about to hit them with a brutal extinction. Countless people clung to their families at home, weeping in absolute despair. A suffocating aura of hopelessness filled the air of the entire Eastern District. In the conference room, Xuanyuan Hongwu sat in dead silence. Surrounding him were all the top officials of the Eastern District. The atmosphere was incredibly heavy and suffocating. Every single heart was weighed down by grief and burning with rage. So many innocent civilians had been killed and wounded, and the leader who had fought so hard for humanity had died in battle high up in the skies. Waterman had achieved his ultimate goal, and yet they were completely powerless to stop any of it from happening. Deep regret and self-blame ate away at everyone. If we had only known Waterman was lying to us from the start, we would never have helped him search for the leader. Establishing the Fengshen Bureau was the biggest mistake we ever made. That damn Waterman! If he hadn't taken advantage of his position, he wouldn't have stood a single chance against the leader. Someone unable to contain their burning rage spat out through gritted teeth. General Song slammed his fist onto the table, absolutely furious. Since things have already come to this, and we're doomed to be wiped out by Waterman sooner or later, we might as well risk everything and fight to the end. Give it everything we've got to wipe out those water monsters. Once we've all died in battle, you detonate every single super weapon our country has, and take those bastards straight to hell with us. I've fought wars my entire life, and I'm not about to let them sweep us aside like trash. If I die, I'm dying on the battlefield. As General Song's voice faded, Li Yunhu stood up in a surge of emotion, threw his cap aside, and roared in agreement. Damn it! Let me take my 150,000 strong army and tear him apart. Even if I have to bite him, I'll tear a chunk of flesh right off his body. We can't just let him slaughter us all for nothing. I'm not going out like a coward. Driven by their roaring words, the other generals grew incredibly fired up one after another. Clearly, this battle had filled their hearts with an absolute fury. Their homeland had been invaded, their people slaughtered. No one could swallow a humiliation like this. Anyone would be driven to sheer madness. Besides, they all knew that whatever came next would not end well. They might as well fight to the death. Seeing them in such a rage, no one stood up to object this time. Every civil official in the room felt just as humiliated and just as desperate. The arrogant laughter of that water monster said it all. If they won this war, humanity would be completely wiped out. I think we need to calm down. We should hold off on any decisions until the situation becomes clearer. That beam of light hasn't disappeared yet. Who's to say the Chancellor isn't still alive? His mecha might have actually withstood the impact. Once we actually see the Chancellor's body, and see those water monsters launching their final assault on humanity, then we will fight to the bitter end. Our Eastern District has never feared war, and we have never feared death. When the time comes, not only will all of you generals have to fight to the death on the front lines, but I will also lead the charge right alongside you and lay down this old life of mine. Seeing how agitated everyone in the room was getting, and that the situation was starting to spin out of control, Heng Chen quickly stepped forward to speak. His words were so clear and so powerful that everyone in the room instantly shut their mouths. But Li Yunhu still couldn't help but speak up again. With a beam of light that massive, let alone a body, there probably wouldn't even be ashes left. Supreme Leader, just give the order. I'll go out there and fight them to the death right now. As soon as he finished speaking, Heng Chen spoke up with a very solemn expression. General Li, there will be plenty of time for you to risk your life. But right now, a glimmer of hope still remains. Our leader was able to build such a powerful empire. Is he really so fragile that he'd fall just like this? Maybe he actually withstood the attack and somehow managed to survive. If you attack rashly now, won't it completely disrupt our entire plan? We might end up getting countered by the Hydro aliens and even dragging down the leader. His words left Li Yunhu completely speechless. After a moment of silence, he could only shut his mouth and sit back down. What Heng Chen said made perfect sense. Before they saw the actual truth with their own eyes, they really couldn't jump to conclusions. Heng Chen is right! Perhaps a miracle really will happen. Xuanyuan Hongwu, who had been silent for a long time, finally spoke up. But we all know, the reality is, there's likely no hope left. So we must prepare ourselves to fight to the absolute bitter end. While surrendering to the Hydro aliens might offer us a slim chance of survival, but that is simply not how we, the people of the Eastern Sector, do things. The words of our leader are still echoing in my ears to this very day. Since he was willing to fight to the bitter end, we absolutely cannot back down either. Generals, hear my command! Xuanyuan Hongwu's voice rang out with absolute authority as he spoke. As his words echoed, every single general dropped to one knee. The eyes of every soldier were filled with unwavering resolve and a willingness to die. Assemble all legions of the Eastern Sector. Deploy every weapon. Stand by at all times. Put all strategic weapons on full alert. This time, everyone must be prepared to lay down their lives. The Eastern Sector will stand and fall with the Sovereign. Even if our nation is wiped out, we will not hesitate. Xuanyuan Hongwu swept his gaze across everyone present, and through gritted teeth he said, "Stand and fall with the Sovereign!" Fearless and unwavering. Without fear, without faltering. Everyone responded in deep, solemn voices. With that, everyone began preparing for battle. Every trump card of the Eastern Sector was being drawn. This time, they were truly going to fight with the determination of a doomed nation. This was no longer just about individual life or death, but the fate of the entire Eastern Sector. Just as Xuanyuan Hongwu gave the order, all the fleeing citizens of Linhai City came to a sudden halt. They heard the mad mocking laughter of the waterman. Every single eye turned toward the massive beam of light in the sky. The 100-meter-wide beam of light pierced right through the clouds, engulfing the Sovereign amidst lightning and auroras. Those who were once filled with terror, fleeing for their lives, seemed to have forgotten their fear in this very moment. Did the Sovereign really fall in battle just as he said he would? The Waterman has seized the Empire, and the end of humanity is near. In the empty city, beneath the collapsed ruins, someone muttered softly on a street choked with black smoke, but most people chose silence. Deep down, they still held on to a tiny sliver of hope, because they felt the man inside that beam of light is still alive. The Supreme Leader of the Empire is still fighting with everything he's got. Humanity still has hope. The liquid invaders will never win. Under the watchful eyes of the entire world, time ticked away second by second, until the beam of light in the sky slowly began to fade, gradually shrinking until it completely vanished. A blurry silhouette seemed to emerge from within. As the light beam in the sky dispersed, Zhang Feng's figure appeared before everyone's eyes. He was completely unharmed, without a single scratch on him. He still held the exact same stance as before, looking down at the ground with proud defiance. At this moment, the world was shaken to its core. Every nation was in utter shock. Countless people were completely stunned. The end they thought was inevitable had actually failed to happen. The Sovereign is still alive. He's still standing right there, completely untouched. And as the footage was broadcast to every corner of the globe, countless people broke into wild cheers. All the previous despair and grief vanished without a trace, replaced by an even more powerful surge of hope. After being fully prepared for total destruction, having hope once again, This hope transcended everything. In the live stream, countless citizens were cheering. The sovereign is alive. He's not dead? He's really not dead. Oh, thank God you've finally answered our prayers. As long as the sovereign is alive, we as humans still have hope. I knew those liquid invaders would never get away with this. Rebellious evil can never defeat the power of justice. The sovereign is the embodiment of absolute justice. The curse of doomsday has been shattered. After surviving this attack, the sovereign will surely lead us to ultimate victory. Surviving a near-death experience always brings good fortune. The sovereign will definitely win. Have faith in the sovereign. It's not just the live stream chat, where billions of viewers are cheering, but nations all over the world are celebrating. Countless high-ranking officials are standing frozen in absolute shock right now. Their hearts are filled with shame and guilt. Before the outcome was even clear, they were already planning their escape routes and preparing to go back on their word. Just to save their own skins, they were ready to betray their promises. But now the sovereign's sudden survival has dealt a crushing blow to their consciences. It's unbelievable that he actually withstood such a massive, devastating energy beam. Just how powerful is the sovereign? Could he really, against such overwhelming odds, actually win this war? Schneider stares at the live stream, his eyes completely filled with shock. Right beside him, the high-ranking officials who were about to signal the aquatics to offer their surrender all stopped in their tracks. They see hope once again. They decide to wait a little longer. Perhaps the sovereign really can win this battle, a battle that concerns all of humanity and the fate of the entire Galactic Empire. In the eyes of Kajaliev of the Xiong Nation, there is nothing but sheer disbelief. He can't begin to comprehend how much power the sovereign must possess to withstand such a terrifying attack. He isn't even slightly injured. He still stands proudly in the sky, completely unscathed. Looking at the sovereign, he feels incredibly relieved that he didn't make that cowardly choice. Order the vanguard to keep pushing forward toward Linhai City. Provide immediate backup to the sovereign. We must pick up the pace. Kazeliev doesn't hesitate for a second. He immediately issues the order, directing all deployed legions to move out. Every single one of them resumed their charge. A massive steel torrent of armies continued to march forward toward Linhai City. All the soldiers, the moment they saw that their leader was still alive, were fired up with burning morale once again. Other nations also began taking action one after another. In the blink of an eye, the world underwent a rapid transformation. Zhang Feng's presence. I dragged the entire world back onto its original track once again. Meanwhile, Chongdao and the Bang State were completely dumbfounded by this sudden twist. They originally thought victory was already in the bag. Once the Water Sovereign won, they could rely on him to dominate Langson. But now, the leader who should have been blown to smithereens long ago has resurrected once again. Such a devastating attack didn't even scratch him in the slightest. Could it be that the Water Sovereign can't defeat the leader at all? For the first time, deep doubt began to creep into their minds. The cheering citizens instantly shut their mouths. Their spirits were deeply shaken. Kim Sun-wung stood in the middle of the hall, completely at a loss for words. He stood there dazed for a long moment before finally snapping out of it. Looking down at the demoralized crowd, Kim Sun-wung finally spoke up. As citizens of the Great Bang State, the power of the Water Sovereign is unquestionable. Even if the Fang God withstood this attack, he will still be defeated by the Water Sovereign. The Great Bang State must firmly support him. We must believe that victory in this war belongs only to the Water Sovereign. The Bang State will follow him into the cosmos, and we will become the rulers of the world. Kim Sun-wung's voice echoed through the venue, stirring the hearts of everyone present. The Bang State citizens who had been feeling down and shaken, they started getting all worked up again. Victory to the Water Sovereign. We will dominate Planet Blue. Victory to the Water Sovereign. We will dominate Planet Blue. Victory to the Water Sovereign. We will dominate Planet Blue. In the Eastern District, Xuanyuan Hongwu and all the top brass were shaking with excitement. Heng Chen was right. A miracle really did happen. The Sovereign is still alive, and he's completely unharmed. He's even turning his head, scanning his surroundings. The Hydro's attack didn't work. There's still hope for humanity. The world still has a fighting chance. Supreme Commander, our forces have fully assembled. The citizens in the urban areas have basically all been evacuated. We're ready to engage at any moment. General Song's eyes were burning with a fierce will to fight as he reported to Xuanyuan Hongwu. Excellent. Get ready to fight immediately. The moment the opportunity arises, we'll give everything we've got to help our sovereign. Miracles don't happen twice. We must make the absolute most of this chance. Xuanyuan Hongwu nodded and said solemnly. His body was already surging with power, ready to launch an attack against the Hydros at any second. To buy more time for the sovereign, Meanwhile, in the streets of Linhai City, the citizens were weeping tears of joy. Tears streaming down their faces, they hugged complete strangers nearby, celebrating the sovereign's survival and rejoicing in their newfound hope. Amidst the smoke-filled ruins, everyone was suddenly filled with hope. Many of them began to move once more, running toward the evacuation zones. They knew that staying here would only be a burden to the sovereign and turn them into dead weight in this war. They need to evacuate as fast as possible, clearing out the city so the leader can focus entirely on the battle. But just as everyone was filled with hope once more and starting to get their plans back on track, the water creature on the ground burst into an even louder mocking laugh. As he did, his body shot straight up into the sky. "I've got the leader trapped right here. There's no way you're escaping this time." The water creature's voice boomed out of nowhere, echoing across the horizon like rolling thunder. He soared higher and higher, flying straight into the heavens. This bizarre sight instantly silenced the crowd who just a moment ago were cheering at the top of their lungs. They were completely dumbfounded. What's going on? What the hell went wrong? Does this mean the leader was never out of danger? Countless citizens of Linhai City froze in their tracks, staring up at the sky once again. High above the water creature's massive figure was still rising, heading straight toward the leader. Could the leader really be trapped by that water monster? Someone muttered, recalling the monster's words. Those words sent shockwaves through the entire crowd, and a wave of pure panic washed over them. And it wasn't just them. Nations all over the world fell back into a state of sheer terror. Everyone thought the leader's revival meant he could fight again, but no one could have anticipated this. The leader was actually already under the water monster's control. In the livestream chat, the deep-seated fear of billions of viewers was instantly reignited, and comments started flooding in like a tidal wave. How could this happen? Why is the leader still trapped? This is impossible. There's absolutely no way. How could that water monster have the power to trap the leader? He must be bluffing. But the leader hasn't moved a single inch. Ever since he revived? What if he really is trapped? What do we do now? Is our hope being crushed all over again?
Please, God, just give us a chance to survive.
We can't let the leader fall into the hands of that monster. It feels like the end of the world is a done deal now. I was totally ready to face death. But then a glimmer of hope appeared, and now we're right back on the brink of extinction. But this time, I just can't bring myself to face death again. Humanity is just so hopelessly weak. I don't even want to watch this anymore. I'm just too exhausted. If we're going down, then let it happen. Leader, please, you have to hold on. I know you can win this. You have to beat the water alien. Countless people were spamming the live chat with comments like this. After riding a roller coaster of non-stop plot twists, everyone was pushed right to their breaking point. They kept getting jerked back and forth between hope and total despair. It was like they were being dragged back and forth across the line of life and death. The very people who had already accepted their deaths were given a brief taste of hope, and now they couldn't just stand by and calmly wait for the end of the world to arrive. They all wanted to live. They all desperately wanted the leader to win this war, but the pressure only kept building, suffocating them all. This fight was just too incredibly hard. At the exact same time, Schneider, the supreme leader of the Beacon Nation, clenched his fists completely at a loss for words. Hope had vanished as quickly as it came, leaving only a crushing despair in its wake. According to expert analysis, the leader was likely trapped in midair by that invisible wall from earlier, which meant the energy beam the water alien just fired was designed purely to restrain the leader. In other words, there was never any hope to begin with. The leader was always doomed to be captured by the water alien. The only reason he wasn't hurt by the beam was because it was meant to capture, not destroy. The water alien wanted to take him alive, to seize his so-called supreme authority. That's why the leader was completely unharmed. But now he is completely at the water alien's mercy. This devastating blow. This was hard for Schneider to accept. Is there really no way out for us? Is there absolutely no hope left? Is humanity really destined to perish here? Schneider stared at the stream, asking himself in silence. The fire that had burned in him for a final showdown, was slowly dying out. The hope in his heart was fading away. He knew that meager reinforcements could never defeat the Waterman. Even if they broke through this time, it would still only be a matter of time. The Waterman would just use even more terrifying weapons to keep the leader pinned down. In the end, the leader wouldn't escape his doom, and humanity would inevitably face extinction. Supreme Commander, perhaps there is still hope. The leader is still alive. If he can break free from his confinement, but he can keep fighting the Waterman, the war minister behind him said. Though he barely believed his own words, right now he would rather lie to himself. Order the Legion to keep marching. No matter how this ends, We cannot go back on our word again. Either humanity perishes, or a miracle happens. If some future civilization ever discovers what we did here, at least we won't go down in history with such a terrible reputation. Schneider spoke again. All the light had vanished from his eyes. He only wanted to do this one last thing, regardless of whether he succeeded or failed. He had already made peace with it. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Xiong Nation's legion was marching at full speed, racing toward Linhai City. Zeliev watched all of this. Although his heart was heavy with pain, he still carried a powerful glimmer of hope. This hope had been hard-won, and he truly didn't want to let it go. Because he knew, if they didn't win this battle, humanity is doomed to perish. Rather than sitting around waiting to die, it is better to risk our lives and fight with everything we've got. No matter if they can actually join the fight this time, or just lend a helping hand with the rescue effort, they are determined to try. Deploying to Linhai to assemble with the Eastern Legion, they will strictly follow the on-site commands of the Eastern generals. In case of any emergencies, you will follow my direct command? To all the soldiers of every legion, this battle might be our last, but I will be right there with you. Facing the front line where everyone's resolve had similarly hardened, Kagiliev broadcasted his orders once again. As his determination for a final decisive battle was made clear, and as this message quickly spread, the entire Iron Legion was filled with burning ambition once more. With heroic resolve in their hearts, they prepared to face this final war for real. Though the extinction of humanity was now highly likely, that last tiny sliver of hope still remained. For the sake of a miracle, they were willing to put all their lives on the line. With various nations taking their stand one after another, the Eastern District legions were fully prepared for battle. As for this sudden turn of events, Xuanyuan Hongwu wasn't too worried. He knew that no matter what, they had to fight this time, even if everyone had to die in battle. As long as they could buy some time for the Sovereign, they still had a chance. Order all legions, prepare for battle. The Sovereign has been trapped, so we will buy him time. Distract the Waterman. No matter if it works or not, we must give it a shot, even if we have to test it with our own lives. Xuanyuan Hongwu's voice was strong and powerful, rallying the entire Eastern District to fight to the death. With absolute determination, everyone began frantically preparing. Meanwhile, high up in the sky, no matter how hard Zhang Feng struggled, space itself had been completely locked down, leaving him absolutely unable to move a single muscle. As he looks around at his surroundings, panic starts to set in. Meanwhile, the water creature below is flying straight toward his position, surrounded by a massive swarm of mechanical mosquitoes. It looks like the Grim Reaper bringing his minions to claim his soul. But just at that moment,